News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-9227. That's 800-288-WBAP. Okay, so Special Counsel Jack Smith saying, hey, oh, by the way, our phone number, 800-288-9227. Special Counsel Jack Smith says today he wants all the charges dismissed. He's asking the leftist Judge Chutkan, the Obama appointee in D.C., please drop the January 6th case. No. Please drop the January 6th case. It's an insurrection. I guess not. They lied. I saw a survey from CBS YouGov, and it also asked, in addition to basically I don't know if it's a CBS YouGov one, but I saw a poll today or yesterday that literally showed the people don't think there was an actual attempted insurrection. Overwhelmingly. I think it's like 30% of the people. Nobody believes it was. They believe it was a protest that got out of hand. And then we learned more and more, even more today, that the whole thing was that Trump did, in fact, call the National Guard and did everything he could, but they wouldn't let him. They held him back. It was the Pentagon. The Department of Defense was holding him back. The woke generals and such. They wanted him to look bad, and so did Pelosi. Remember when she said the videotape came out from the HBO footage that her daughter was filming and stuff, and she said, how did we let this happen? This is my responsibility, something to that effect. She said it in the car as they were speeding away from the Capitol. She knew that it was her and her office's fault because she was responsible as the Speaker of the House, ultimately, for the protection of the Capitol. It was all set up. But look at all these cases that have gone to the wayside. And it's amazing, isn't it? Do you remember when that raid was done on Trump's house that day? Do you remember when they released all those documents, those pictures of all those documents on the floor, and turned out it was a prop? It was put together, just laid out on purpose by the FBI, including mixing some files to try to make it look like it was all, we got them and all stuff. Everything's a freaking lie. Everything's a lie. And you wonder why Donald Trump is going to go in there and blow up, not literally, for those idiots who try to say, he said blow up. No. Do you remember when Trump said he's going to blow up the DOJ, figuratively? And he must. These people are insane. The mission is to get him, not to protect us. They've got to be just kicked out of this. They've got to be taken out of our government. They can't be in our government. They're enemies to our government, to us, to our people, excuse me. They are enemies to us, and they seek to harm Trump and not help us and protect us. So yes. And I believe Pam Bondi was picked. I believe she was the actual pick, and that what's his name from Florida, Gates, was. There's no such thing as 4D chess. He's not playing 4D chess. That's like, come on, dude. But I think he chose Gates. He helped him get out of a situation with the House, and now Gates is moving on. He looks good because he tried and then didn't happen. And Pam Bondi was the one all along. He's picking so many people from Florida. Marco Rubio, Walz for Congressman Walz from Florida, Green Beret. And now Pam Bondi. So it's not a coincidence. He had her in mind, and she's going to do a great job. And she, as an AG for 9 years of the state of Florida, is going to do a great job. And she will smoke out those bleepity bleeps. So anyways, just think of it all the stuff, and it's all a lie. And then on top of that, the High Court ruled, the Supreme Court ruled that Trump is immune. Anything that's from his official duties is immune. And what that means now is also that this New York State case should go bye-bye. And I was listening to Mark Levin over the weekend, the great one, and you big dummy! Ah! And he was saying, and he really is pushing the Trump administration, they still haven't done this, go to the U.S. Supreme Court this is a president's duty, and there's already legal precedents and cases where it says the president cannot be interfered with during his duties, and he can't have any charges hanging over after he gets out of the office in 4 years. This New York State BS Stormy Daniels trial that got him convicted of these things and such, and they're awaiting sentencing. Now, Judge Merchan can do the right thing. He's backed himself into a corner. He has no good options because of the situation he put himself in with this stupid case. And now he has to relinquish Trump and dismiss the case. Otherwise, he's going to expect a president to sit there with the sword of Damocles over his head for 4 years. The reason why it's not lawful, and Levin was citing precedent with the Supreme Court and such, that a president cannot have his duties interfered with. Not only that, but he can't think for 4 years while he's doing his job. Well, if I do this, it could put that case in jeopardy that where they're going to arrest me. Well, if I do that, I might get in trouble because of that case, and they might say that's not okay. He can't leave charges hanging over him for 4 years because it'll interfere with his ability to freaking run the country. Everything he'll have to think about will be through the lens of, well, if I might go to jail when I come out. How do I do this? Or this might hurt my chances of getting a lower sentence. Can't be done. You can't do this. You can't have the man bent over a barrel and thinking about this case coming up and how they're going to put an 84-year-old or whatever, 83-year-old when you get out of his presidency. It's BS. I don't know why they haven't gone to the Supreme Court. Mark Levin has asked about that and said about that on the show, and he said that several times over the past several weeks. I agree. He should be doing an emergency petition to go to the Supreme Court. He should be doing one for the state Supreme Court and the state of appeals. This Judge Juan Merchan's a joke. And Big Fani with her case is a joke, too. But I wanted to ask you a few questions. Do you feel this was a completely partisan effort initiated by Joe Biden and the Democrats? All these cases against him, every one of them, state, local, government, state ones, federal ones. Do you think this will stop the Democrats and all these people in the Justice Department from doing it again? Did these bogus cases actually help Trump win? I think they did. And I don't think it's going to stop him ever again. I think the only way to stop this is to toss these people out of the Department of Justice, every one of them. And to break it up and to separate it and have it in branches all over the country. No more centralization in D.C. But they need to fire about probably half of everybody in that Department of Justice. It is a disgrace. It is foul. It is anti-American, un-American, and more. And did these bogus cases? Did they actually help Trump? I think they did. And what do you think will happen to the hush money case in New York? The hush money thing is so fake. It's not hush money. NDAs are common. But what do you think will happen to this hush money case? Do you feel this was a completely partisan effort from day one by Biden and the Democrats? And is this going to stop them from doing it again? And did these bogus cases actually help Trump win? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Lines wide open. I actually really do think it's one of the many things that helped Trump win. I really do. A lot of people saw that and go, everybody knew it was fake. Everybody knew it was partisan. And it really helped him win. Everything they've done to usurp what should happen in situations has gotten Trump the election. They've helped him win in 2016. By doing that Hillary crap, Comey. They helped him win in 2020. Everything they've done has helped him win, except the Hunter Biden laptop is fake and, suppress this and suppress that from social media. But all these cases are ridiculous, and they helped him win. And unfortunately, no, I don't think the Department of Justice is learning their lesson. I think they must be, a lot of them must be removed from DOJ and fired. It's just it. And I've heard too, the top 20% of the DOJ must be just fired. And I hope they do that. I really do. I really do. This continues to go our country continues to go in a very bad direction. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Coming up next as well, this is big. I'm gonna pause the Daniel Penny one because I want to get into this one. This is even bigger. Donald Trump to kick transgender troops out of the military. He is going to kick transgender troops out of the military on day one. It is being reported today. I will tell you how they're going to do that, and I want to talk about that, whether you think it's going to help recruitment, hurt recruitment. They're claiming there's a wide enough swath or there's a large enough amount of transgender troops in our fighting force or in our military that this could actually affect our ability to conduct military business, whether it be a war or whatever. Well, we can't get rid of all these people. There's too many of them. There's transgender people falling from the sky. Oh my gosh, it's raining transgender people everywhere! Everywhere! Ah! 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. It's Chris Crock on News Talk 820, WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3, 800-288-9227 is our number, 800-288-WBAP. News Talk 820 WBAP, and now on FM at 93.3, Donald Trump to kick transgender troops out of the military. You're out of here. He's planning an executive order day one that will lead to the removal of all transgender members of the U.S. military. All of them, day one. It could come on his first day back, the executive order, and there is believed to be about 15,000 transgender folks in the military that are active service personnel who are transgender. They would be medically discharged, not dishonorably discharged, medically discharged, which would determine that they were unfit to serve. That's what it would determine. You're unfit to serve. It would also lead to a ban on trans people joining the military, and would come at a time when almost all of the branches of the American Armed Forces are failing to meet recruitment targets. Can I tell you something? Thank you, God, that this is going to happen. This could not happen sooner. This could not happen quicker. I am so overjoyed. There is a tremendous amount of power in that executive job, isn't there? This is a lot of power, and I could not be happier. This is critical. I believe the radical transgender leftist poison of DEI, all that crap, is exactly why our recruitment is down. I don't know, but that's what I believe. And I believe a transgender person, look, here's what I do think. If you are, if you're transgender, meaning you off your off-duty hours and not on the base, you dress up as a woman, I could care less. I think most people could care less as long as you don't bring it into the workplace or the theater. And I think that if you're taking hormones, that's a huge problem. That can affect a lot of abilities and need more medical attention, all sorts of stuff that has no place in the military. And number two, I think if you've had stuff lopped off or this or that, if you had stuff lopped off and replaced with this or that, if you're a man with fake breasts that were put in, there's no place for that. There's no place for showering, sleeping in the same area. It's just not going to work. It's not okay. It's not comfortable for a lot of people. And we need to have our killing machines, if you will, and cohesiveness. And that's not cohesiveness. That's a bad thing to have in a military. Military is not civilian. Civilian is not military. It's totally different rules, laws, etc. So I support this 110%. And I believe it's because of these super leftist DEI, radical transgender, radical LGBTQ stuff that our recruitment is down. And I am looking forward to the ability for those stupid videos you've seen where there's some kind of crappy music playing and it's a guy dressed up as a woman and they wave his arm around like that and he waves his head around, like swings his head around, and then all of a sudden he's in a uniform. You see those stupid things? I've seen a bunch of them. They come up on Twitter, like libs of TikTok will retweet it saying, here's our new military force, nowadays. So all those folks are going to have to, goodbye. We don't have a place for you to put drag on and dance around while we're trying to go to war here or trying to defend ourselves. And it's not being personal or nasty. It's just saying that has no business in the military. So do you support kicking out transgender troops from our military, even if they follow the old don't ask, don't tell model? I think that's important. If you have no idea what's going on, That's where I'm like, if you dress up like a woman and it's not on the base and all that stuff, and it's not, and has nothing to do with your job, then I don't care. I don't think most people would care. As long as they don't know what's going on, they don't see anything, that's totally cool. So do you support kicking out transgender troops from our military, even if they follow the old don't ask, don't tell model? And what about troops who have undergone surgery for a sex change? And what about our armed forces being unable to meet their recruitment numbers? Should we not do this because of that? There are these critics saying, we can't lose 15,000 troops. We're already short. Lines wide open. Chime in right now. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. We got time to pop you on right now. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Here is what the report today that came out is: Trump planning an executive order that will lead to the removal of all transgender members of the U.S. military. All of them could come on his first day back. 15,000 active service personnel estimated to be transgender. They would be medically discharged, which would determine that they were unfit to serve. It would also lead to a ban on trans people joining the military, coming at a time when almost all branches are failing to meet recruitment targets. These people will be forced out at a time when the military can't recruit enough people, says a source familiar with Trump's plans. Only the Marine Corps is hitting its numbers for recruitment, and some people who will be affected are in very senior positions. If you are a radical transgender person and you're in very senior positions, you got your job probably because of you being a radical transgender person in this administration. We all know that. So you're out. Those are the first people to go out. But they're a high rank. Well, if their primary mission is to spread this radical transgender or DI stuff, then get out of here. Great. We'll see you later. Don't let the door hit you in the rump. Should a trans ban be implemented from day one Trump's administration, it would undermine the readiness of the military and create an even greater recruitment and retention crisis, not to mention signaling vulnerability to America's adversary, says one of these persons that is with the trans LGBTQ group in the military. I don't think so. Not at all. I think about this too. What happens if somebody's in the theater and they get captured and they're transgender? How could that person be an advantage to the enemy having them? God forbid they get sexually assaulted. I think that could be, if you're in a radical Islamist type country, that could happen right away. Or you could be a high value target. I mean, it's just none of this should have anything to do with anything. And it has no business in the military. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Do you support kicking out transgender troops from our military, even if they follow the old don't ask, don't tell model, which worked, by the way? And what about troops who have undergone surgery for a sex change? And what about our armed forces being unable to meet their recruitment numbers? Should we not do this because of that? I think it's the opposite. I think because of that, we should do it, because that's probably why our numbers are so low in recruitment. 800-288-WBAP. That's coming up next in the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. And then we're going to hit the Daniel Penny case. That's we're awaiting the prosecution's closing arguments. Coming up next on the Chris Crock Show at 33 after the hour on WBAP. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. What do you say? You okay with kicking Trump on day one is reportedly going to kick the transgender troops out of the military. There's reportedly around 15,000 of them. They're saying, well, this could hurt our readiness. Dude, are you kidding me? No. I think it's the opposite. I think having transgender troops that are openly transgender and taking hormone therapy or have removed genitals and replaced them with other genitals, or if they're a man saying they're a woman, they've got to be in a woman's shower, a woman's restroom, a woman's tent. No way. This will hurt combat readiness. This will hurt the effectiveness of our force. This will also put them at risk, I think, in the theater of God knows what happened to them if they get in the hands of the enemy. No, I don't want transgender folk in there. If we don't know, because you don't play that, game or whatever, it has no business being in the military. It shouldn't be shoved in your face. It shouldn't be flaunted, and it has no place to be discussed. It really doesn't. So if you don't, quote unquote, play that game, if you don't go in and say, I'm transgender and this and that, it's like, if you don't do that and you happen to dress up like a woman and you're a man after work and off the base, I don't care. I don't think anybody does. As long as it doesn't come on the playing field, quote unquote, amongst the troops. So I guess a don't ask, don't tell thing I'm fine with, as long as you can't tell. Not to be nasty, but it has no business in our military fighting force. And I think it has affected the ability to recruit and maintain and retain service members. I think the wokeness and the mandatory vaccine stuff, complete and horrible disaster for the military. Do you support kicking out transgender troops from our military, even if they follow the old don't ask, don't tell model? And what about what about troops who have undergone surgery for a sex change? I mean, don't you agree that they have no business being in the military? And what about our armed forces being unable to meet their recruitment numbers? Should we not do this because of that? That is the most ridiculous thing. We're selling out our soul to make sure we don't lose these 15,000 people. No, that is. If you hang on to 15,000 people who hurt the readiness and the functionality and the ability of our military, if you get rid of them, you're going to have a better fighting force, and you'll have more incentive for people to come in. If you don't, I think you're going to have a less ready force, and I think you're going to have a lot less recruitment. So no, you shouldn't sacrifice. This would be like a pastor of a church or a church selling out their beliefs and changing their beliefs and their faith and what their faith says in exchange to get more members of the church. Selling it out. That's what this is. 800-288-WBAP is our number. Let's go first to Leighton in Cisco. You're on WBAP. Hello.
Good evening, Mr. Crock.
Good evening.
I've got a bit of experience. I was active duty from 04 to 07.
Excellent.
And
thank you for your service.
I'll just try to do my job, sir. You were referencing President Clinton's don't ask, don't tell. Mm-hmm. Even in basic training in 04, that was being drilled in. And if you met anybody, whether it's Guard, Army Guard, National Guard, whatever it was, you met them off base and they were dressed up different, that was their business, as long as they didn't bring it on base. But I had girls who would we were getting ready to go overseas, and they weren't married, but they'd come up pregnant deliberately to avoid going overseas. They would get what they call UCMJ, which would go anywhere from a slap on the wrist if it happened accidentally to, if they did deliberately, lose rank, lose money, maybe even be chaptered out of the military. Yeah, people don't understand that these rules and laws that you guys have are nothing like the civilian ones. Yes, sir. And something that was our captain was telling us, he said, all right, married females, if you come up pregnant in the next X amount of days, things happen. But you will take precautions from this day forward not to be pregnant. If you're single and you come up pregnant, that's you are in major trouble from right now. And if you come up pregnant overseas in a war zone, oh gosh, God help you, because you're going straight to Leavenworth. We're going to do the worst thing possible to you. And these guys and girls that are getting the bolt-on sex change, they are perpetually they can't go overseas because there's so many things. I mean, let alone the American Disabilities classifies it as a psychological issue, to where, are you going to trust them with your guys and girls' lives, and you're going to turn them loose with whatever kind of weapon? They can't be sent overseas for anything. And then for every one of them that stays back, that requires anywhere from 2 to 5 able-bodied people to stay back to support them that would otherwise be available to go overseas and fight. And I agree with President Trump. If you've taken active steps, you got to go. If you want to play under the old don't ask, don't tell, as long as you don't bring it to work, that's your business. But as soon as you bring it to work, you need to go.
Yeah, I think that really is it. If nobody knows anything, then who cares? But if you've gotten surgery, if you're getting hormones, if you want to cross-dress while you're there, no, you're out. It's a distraction. It hurts the functionality. Thank you for your call and thank you for your service, Leighton. William in Sunset, you are on WBAP. What do you got?
Hey, Chris. Thanks for taking my call. Like the previous fella, I'm also prior military, and when he refers to the UCMJ, that's Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Mm-hmm.
That dictates every single thing I can do, including how I wear my uniform. And you see these folks on TikTok and stuff that are wearing that uniform and flaunting something they know is going to trigger people.
Yes.
That's disrespecting the uniform. That should be punished, serve brig time, whatever. And me personally, I've got friends in just about every category of the LGBTQ alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I don't have a problem with them. But as a whole, it is a perceived weakness from our enemy's perspective, at least. When people see a transgender, they automatically assume softer, weaker. And I'm not saying that's the fact, but it is a perception. So how are we supposed to be strong and ready and intimidating to the enemy when we've got guys wearing dresses and changing their organs? It's not conducive to power and superiority in our military.
No, it's not. And I agree with you very much. The message and it's not. It doesn't help serve the message. And have you heard the left talk about this? Like, no, diversity makes us more fierce. Have you heard that crap?
Yeah, and you know what?
If we lead with a pride flag in our attack of the enemy, they'll be scared.
Right. Once upon a time, color was the difference. A guy that I was in with was pretty hardcore racist when he grew up, and he found out during his active duty that he didn't feel that way because he knew the man beside him would give his life regardless of the color of his skin.
My dad,
so there is growth.
My dad was in the military as a National Guardsman for like 28 years or so before they forced him to retire, and I think he was one of the ones who told me, he was like, the nothing has been better to show how incredibly powerful and how important integration is way back when with blacks and whites and all sorts of races. When you're in there fighting together, people have your back, and it really gets this kind of a brotherly love and at least covering each other back. You have relationships, forced relationships, and you begin to really see people for who they are and really appreciate and love them. And it's a big wake-up call in a good way.
There's the old saying that all men, and I'll include it, all men and women are created equal. But when a man becomes a woman or a woman becomes a man, I think that starts to change things a little bit.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Yeah.
And like I say, man, more power to you. Whatever you want to do in your private life is your business.
Right. But a man can't become a woman and a woman can't become a man. And then you're making your military start lying about it and pretending like that man can get pregnant. That's literally what they're making you do. They're making you lie.
How is it that the military is expected to pay for the medical procedures required to do the change and all the follow-up to go with it? That's an elective procedure.
To me, I agree with you on that, but to me, it's not about the money. Because is there a price for having a military that we need to have a military at a certain level, and if we don't, we're going to lose, and we're not going to have any freedom.
And we are short-staffed. I'm prior Coast Guard. There are several Coast Guard bases that have had to either shutter temporarily or go to skeleton crews. They've got local fire departments filling in, doing rescue roles. So recruiting is down. But I also agree with you. I think this DEI, the whole concept of it has got, your old school macho men, they don't want to be a part of it because they think it's weak. And, like it or not, that is what our military is built on.
Yes. And I agree. I appreciate your call very much, William, and thank you for your service, my friend.
Yes, sir.
You're a Coast Guard veteran, though? By the way, are you a Coast Guard veteran?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm friends with I know there's probably a lot of you out there, so I know it's not like you're like a diamond in the rough rarity per se at that much. But I have a friend who's a former Coast Guard as well, too, and he's got one of his old helmets in his library at home, and it's some great pictures. It's great stuff, man. Where were you stationed?
I was in Galveston, Texas. I worked on a buoy tender, Coast Guard cutter Pawpaw.
Awesome. And how big was your craft?
It was a 180-foot buoy tender. That's why the Navy calls us puddle jumpers, because most of our boats aren't very big.
But how fast do they go?
Top speed was 13 knots.
13 knots.
The wind was behind our back.
Well, gosh, you were slow, weren't you? What is 13 knots, like 20 miles an hour?
To be honest, I don't remember the nautical equivalent to mileage.
All right,
I got out in 2000.
Okay. It was 13, you said 13 knots, right? All right,
I believe it was like 1.1 miles per knot.
15 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But did you rescue people or all sorts of stuff out there?
No, 99% of the time, all we did was work aids to navigation, so we worked buoys.
Okay.
We did an LE patrol before, and we actually towed a boat from a shrimper from about 100 miles out one time. We had to tow him in at 4 knots. You go 100 miles at 4 knots, it takes you a little while.
Go to sleep. All right, brother. Thank you for your service. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Have a good night, bud.
You too. That's scary to me. It's very scary being out 100 miles off the shore, and that scares the crap out of me. I was on a cruise once. We were on a cruise, and look, everything's fine. I'm not panicking or anything, but sometimes you look out there and you go, we're screwed if this thing sinks. We're screwed. Help us. Okay, coming up next to the Chris Crock Show. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Daniel Penny case is going in front of you got the defense closed on Friday. The prosecution's closing shortly. So I want to share that with you, and we're going to talk about that and in anticipation of a verdict in the very near future. And I want to ask you about, do you think he's innocent of the charges? And how do you think this New York City jury will rule? Because that's a freaking different ball game, isn't it? 800-288-WBAP is our number. That's up next on the Chris Crock Show at 51 after the hour on WBAP. News Talk 820 WBAP now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. All right, so Daniel Penny, the former Marine who was riding a subway minding his own business when a man who was high on K2, which is synthetic marijuana, it's like marijuana and cocaine, who has sickle cell anemia, who's a chronic abuser of this synthetic marijuana I just shared with you, K2. So schizophrenia, sickle cell anemia, chronic abuser of synthetic marijuana, comes into a tube, if you will. They call it the tube in England, but the subway is a tube, and they're underground. You can't open the door, you can't escape, and you're in the dark underground. And this maniac comes in and yells and said he's gonna kill folks. He doesn't care if he goes to jail for the rest of his life. He's gonna kill somebody. And he's going around screaming at people and threatening their lives. And Daniel Penny steps in and puts the guy in a hold. And by the way, he did not kill the guy. When he released him, when the cops were there, he did have a pulse, the cops said. Second of all, the cops said they gave him Narcan because they feared he was had overdosed on an opioid. Turns out he didn't. Third of all, they said they would have done CPR on him at that time. It fit the protocol, but they had no dental dams, I think is what they call them, where you put it over the mouth and you can give him CPR because, and he said, me and my officers, we don't want to get STD or HIV, all sorts of stuff you can get, and you might not be able to get HIV through that, but the point is there are communicable diseases. He said that's why we didn't administer the mouth-to-mouth CPR. But he did have a pulse. He was alive when the cops checked him at first. So there's a clear threat of people's lives, and there are little children on there with strollers and women, and a whole bunch of those folks spoke out and said to the jury that they felt threatened and they felt that their lives were in jeopardy. On top of that, you had a forensic examiner, a medical examiner that testified for the defense, and he said that this was not a death caused by choking, that it was a combination of synthetic marijuana, sickle cell anemia. He was manic. He was freaking out and in a panic, and that combined with the sickle cell and his manicness, that combined with the chokehold, whatever you want to call it, it was all that. It wasn't the chokehold alone. It was all the other things. So what the message is, oh, by the way, he has a lengthy rap sheet. He's a repeat violent offender with a violent history, including other assaults on subways, punching people out. I think there was one where he punched a woman out, or punched her in the middle of the street, walking down the street. He's a violent felon, and he was sentenced to go to not a prison, but like an outpatient rehab facility for criminals. And all he had to do was finish 2 weeks, and he didn't. In the middle of that 2 weeks, he escaped. So he is a career criminal who is violent, and he's dead because of his own actions, not because of Daniel Penny. But the question is twofold. It is, number one, do you think Penny is innocent of the charges? And number two, how do you think this New York jury will rule? That's the big question. We're going to hit into that coming up next at 3 minutes after the hour. Plus, we will get into this one. Americans stressed out about politics may skip Thanksgiving, a new survey finds. What? All that next in the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP. And now on FM at 93.3, 800-288-9227 is our number.